Like Cobra Kai has unfortunately ended, it's time to rank every season from the worst to the best. But if I'm being real, almost every season of Cobra Kai has really been amazing for me. One of the only shows where the seasons get better, or at least on par with each other as they go on. So this list is going to be more of a decent to amazing. And also, this list is just my list. Feel free to let me know how you rank in the comments, how you would say every season. Especially if you're like me and you really think every season is goated. Except maybe one. Alright, so I'll just get into it. So in 6th place, I put season 5. Alright, let me just say one more time that this list was really hard to do. I actually was thinking of this for a while, and I was even procrastinating on it, because I was like, I'm not sure where to even rank, all of them, because I genuinely think that every season of the show was good. There have been a single bad season. Even the one I put at the very end right now, at the very least, I would still give it like a 7 out of 10. I still think it's good, above average. Now again, I still really like the season. The only reason I put it at the end was just because I feel like there's some that I like a bit more. But this one is still really good to me. It just, I feel like at this point of the show, this is when it started to get a little bit too corny. The show started to get a little bit over the top, but let me, start with some good stuff first. So, of course, I really love, the father-son dynamic of Johnny and Robbie. But the only problem is I feel like it just feels like a little bit like too, happens too quickly. And then once they finally get along together, they have to go to Mexico look for Miguel, and it just feels like so rushed in a way. It's like they finally made up together, but then they're arguing for a little bit because oh, he wants to go to Mexico to find Miguel, and then Johnny is like, oh no, but it's like a father-son trip, but he's like obviously Robbie's Miguel, this is when the relationship was still pretty bad, so obviously for Robbie it's hard to do that, and they're still they just got back together and they're arguing again. It's like, kind of complicated to watch like that. And so, obviously we know Miguel and Robbie make up and become friends and brothers, of course, but it's only at the very middle of the season, towards episode 5 or 6, so it's for most of the season they're still arguing together, and then they're mixed with that with Johnny and Robbie, who are just finally starting to get along with each other, so it's it kind of is mixed, towards a bit that, so that kind of threw me off a bit when I first saw it. And also the whole Mexico storyline honestly just feels a little bit off, if I'm being honest. I remember the first time I saw it, it was only for 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes. I thought it was gonna be a much more important role in the season. I thought Miguel's dad was Hector was gonna be a more prominent character who was gonna I actually thought he was gonna come back in season 6 in part 1 or part 2 or something, but they didn't do anything with that. And even in season 5, at the end, when obviously Miguel found out about his dad, how he never really cared for him, and how he doesn't even know that he has a son. It's he obviously learned that his father never cared for him. But I don't know, I just felt like they could have done a bit more with it. They could have established his dad more, done something a bit with it. I don't know. It just felt a little bit too brushed over. It's they hyped it up so much in season 5, and it's it all season 4, and in season 5 it happens the first 2 episodes. It just happens so fast, and it's I don't know. I wasn't sure to think about it. But of course, though, that's a few parts I don't like about it. I still think it's really great how Terry Silver is just amazing. He's really the best character in this whole season. Tommy Sean Griffith is just amazing in this role, and especially I feel this is when he, obviously he got Kreese arrested. So here in this season, it's he became his own person. He was the main, the main guy, pretty much the main villain. So it's just so interesting to see how Terry Silver is just, taking over these new dojos, opening new locations. He's just becoming so evil and just so sinister. And I want to talk more about Daniel and Silver's dynamic, their whole relationship, especially there are 2 fights that they have. The one in the apartment and the one that they have at the very end is definitely one of the best fights in the entire show. But yeah, the first fight in the apartment, it's just so, everything, the dialogue, the way they talk in that scene in, Stinger's apartment, how Daniel and Silver, and he says oh, I can't wait to get the Cobra Kai gis on your kids. It's stuff like that. It's you can understand why Daniel's so pissed at him, and the whole fight they have when he's breaks his arm almost, you know what I mean? And he does all that. It's just the way it's handled is just so amazing. The music too. And he leaves him on the ground. He puts his foot on the stroll, and he says don't think of it as an act of mercy. Think of it as the next big step. And he says the real pain is about to begin. It's those moments that, it just makes you feel shit. Then there's Johnny. Johnny, I think it's so funny. I know I don't want to glaze Johnny, but it's in every season of the show, it's Johnny has always been the one who kind of keeps it together in a way. Every single season, it's so nice how I've noticed this. I don't know if anyone else has seen this too. Johnny always has some interesting speech in every season. He always has his dialogue is just so well done in almost every season. But especially in this one, the one scene I think is really underrated is when he's in the nightclub with Chosen and Daniel and Amanda, but he's just talking to Chosen in that scene, and he's telling him how Chosen asks him, how are you feeling? And he says I don't know, my whole life has been haunted by one stupid kick. I thought if I could go back in time, change things, avoid it, things would be better. And then he says, but I had to stop focusing on what was behind and start focusing on what's in front of me. And I think that just like that whole speech, like I know I'm not saying it as dramatic as him, but it's like that speech just really makes you think about life, especially for me too. Like I've had sometimes the past few years when I've kind of been dealing with similar stuff like Johnny, but I look back and I think to myself like, yeah, I shouldn't be focusing on what's behind. I should instead of focus on what's in front of me right now, this new opportunity I have right now, the people in my life right now that I have right now, not the ones who have left before. So I think it's really that made me. It's like those like these things that Johnny says like. I'll make a whole like separate video of his character later because I don't know if I'll talk about it in one season, but it's like Johnny's whole like character analysis, like the way he changes so much throughout each season, he gains more wisdom literally. Like he's still Johnny, Johnny being Johnny moments are always in the show. The way he describes things, especially like about his life, how it's passed on, it's just so well done. Of course, the other thing I had to mention was when Kreese is in prison and he's like talking to the therapist about like his life, and that whole scene is just done so well with every character that comes in. Like when he's imagining it, like all the people from his past, Tori, his younger self, his captain, his girl that died. It's like all those people. It's like the scene. He visualizes everything. He sees that he's made mistakes, he's made regrets, and then especially in that scene where he says like, what should I feel regret for? We see younger Johnny, and he says the people that you've hurt, and he says that like. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, just trying to make his students better than him. It's like stuff like that. It just makes you realize like you really feel for him, and it was pretty obvious like this season, even before already earlier, but especially here, they were already starting to make Kreese like the less villain. Like obviously they were already starting to make Silver the main villain. Kreese, they were trying to sympathize with us more. I feel like it was this scene that really made us like feel for him, and also the music that was playing too, and. Like literally, like the CGI for young Johnny, like that's just amazing. Like that's fucking amazing. How do they do that? They have the CGI of him, like looks just like him. But yeah, season 5 is still really great. It's Cobra Kai. It's still great. Coming in 5th place, we have season 2. And now the way they continue Johnny and Miguel's relationship with having Cobra Kai back and having all the new students join, I think it's done well. I think it's just the way they handle Miguel specifically. It's like. He's still great in season. He's definitely in his prime in the season. He's the strongest. He probably is until season 6. It's just the way they, have him like after, he breaks up with Sam. It's like he's kind of on his own. He's dealing with himself, but there's still so many amazing scenes in the season, especially in the scene when, honestly, I think this might be one of the best moments in the entire show, honestly. But in the scene when Daniel's on the beach and he sees the guy who looks just like Mr. Miyagi from the back, who's fishing in the water, and he comes up to him. He's like, "Oh, you remind me of an old friend," and the guy tells him like. Oh, yeah, I'm a county fisher, and he's like, eventually, like, if you have something worth biting, the fish will come to you. And like that whole scene when Daniel's like, "You're a lot more like my friend than I thought," and like his voice comes back, his younger voice comes back. It's like that whole scene is just done so well, and it's like it really makes you feel like I saw a comment once that's like the scene made you feel like Mr. Miyagi was here, like his spirit was there, Of course, the school fight at the end, one of the best fights in the entire show, when everyone's fighting, it's just amazing, and then Robbie pushing Miguel off the balcony, and that's truly heartbreaking. And then the very end, when we see Johnny crying about it, is probably William Zabka's best acting, or no, second best acting, because I think William Zabka's best acting is in the next season, which we'll talk about soon. But that scene where he's crying, he's listening to the voicemail of Miguel, it's just so touching. Like you can feel him, you can feel the emotion of him, and seeing Johnny on the beach, like remember everything he did for Miguel, and it still wasn't good enough. He got him injured. It's like he truly is worried about it. Like he doesn't care about Cobra Kai at all anymore. It's like he doesn't care if he loses it. It's gone now. And finally, for last, there's one scene I wanted to save off for the very end. This is the one part that I really wanted to. And the last part I want to talk about was honestly might actually be my favorite scene in the entire show. Honestly, just because of how amazing this dialogue is. So this actually might be my favorite scene in the entire series. Well, let me say what it is. So pretty much in the scene when. In episode, I think it was 6, All In, when Johnny's with his old friends that are camping in the place at night. At night, Johnny talks to Tommy, and they just talk about how they talk about how fun the day was, how their past lives in school, and Johnny tells Tommy like he never really got over Ali. He says that like he lost a lot of things, and then Tommy tells him like there's one thing that you still got that's worth more than anything. And he says, what? And he says, time. You still have time. you still have time to change your life, meet someone new, you know, do what you want to do. And that moment just really like, it really hit Johnny, and I mean, obviously for me watching as well, but for Johnny, that scene was just so touching because it's like he tells him after like, oh yeah, like I still have time to my life to do what I want to do. He's like, and he says, I want to make sure my students don't make the same mistakes that we did. I don't want to, you know, them to live their lives full of regret. And he tells him like, yeah, you'll do it, Johnny. You're the champ. And the music that plays, it's like the way they express that dialogue and the important message of that is just so heartbreaking because what Tommy's telling him is, you know, Tommy has had cancer in the show and he unfortunately passed away, like, you know, the day after, and also in real life too. Rest in peace to Rob Garrison. But that scene where he tells him like, you still have time, change your life, you know, like unlike me who like, you know, because he's dying. It's like, it's amazing because in that scene, that was in, you know, season 2, by the way, the beginning of the show, and Johnny is like 50 years old. He just recently started getting his life together. He opened the dojo again. He's making money now. He has new relationships in his life. He just kind of met a woman, you know, Carmen, and he was still kind of like a loser. He was still the ace degenerate. And after that scene, it's like in every season of the show, leading up to season 6, he's changed his life so much. It's truly amazing just seeing like how much he changed from that speech he told him. And I'll make a whole separate video on this too. But the way that like you look back at Johnny from season 1 and 2, and he was a loser, drinking every day, had no life purpose, he had no money, he was just living in the apartment, doing nothing all day, just being the ace degenerate, like, you know, being sad about the past. He was like 50 years old already. Within 2 years, he changed his whole life. He opened up the dojo again. He made new relationships. He met Miguel, who became like a, you know, like a father to him. He fixed his relationship with his estranged son, Robbie, which is just amazing together. So, and he met a woman who he got married with, and now he has a new daughter now, which this is season 6, so we'll just talk about it right now because why not? And he fixed all his former rival relationships with Daniel, with Kreese, everyone. It's like he did so much in his life to change it. And just like Tommy told him, like, you still have time. Like, even though you're 50 years old, it's like, it's a good message of that you're never too late in life. And to me, it really like hit me. Like, I remember the first time I saw that scene, even though I was only like 15 years old, it's still like, that scene just spoke to me in a way that like, I don't know, most movies that have that message never really did. I don't know why. Because it really just gave me that good sign of like, you really are never too late in life to do something new, you know? It's like, just like when I first saw season 1 of the show, I was like 15 and I got back into martial arts. I started doing boxing and Muay Thai, and it really just helped me realize like, yeah, like you still have time. You're still, even at 50 years old for Johnny, it's like, you think you're old, but it's like, at least you don't have any like disease, you're healthy. It's like, you still have time in your life to change it, meet someone new, do something new. It's like, that scene really spoke to me. And again, like, I know right now this is just a video of me like explaining it like this, but I definitely want to make a whole video like explaining like the amazingness of Johnny's like arc, how he changed his entire life, and how this show, especially for Johnny's character, is such a great message for people to watch who are a bit down in life. I think people who definitely like need some help in life, they could definitely look at Johnny in this show and you know, don't use them on motivation to actually work hard as well too, but it's like the motivation, the discipline that, you know, Johnny achieved is just truly amazing, and it's just such a good message. So that's like, again, I'm surprised I put season 2 this low because of this scene. I feel like this scene would have made it like first for me, honestly, but season 2 is just amazing. 9 out of 10. I know it's second last, but again, my opinion might change a few months from now, so who knows. But that scene really is just amazing. Coming in 4th place, we have season 6. Now, of course, the most recent season, I basically did a whole video talking about the ending when I thought about it, so I'll try to make this like kind of similar, not too long. But I feel like season 6 for me it's kind of weird because I feel like if it was released, if I could judge it by like each part, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 1 was honestly like, it was pretty bad. It was pretty disappointing. A lot of people didn't like it, and even I myself, when it first came out, we just had part 1, the first five episodes. Honestly, I really considered it like to be the worst of all the seasons by far. And it's because, you know, part 1 was just like, everything that happened, it just, you know, my opinion, this is what I think. I feel like part 1 should have just been the Sekai Sakai right away. Like, we should have had them training more in like season 5, or at least had like 2 episodes of them training, or even 3 in season part 1. Then the next few episodes, they should have just been at the Sekai right away. They should have been training there. I mean, they should have, been there. They could have trained there, and then they could have fought, and then, of course, they would have the big brawl at the end. Quan would have died. I feel like it would have been made so much more sense to have the whole first Sekai tournament, part 1, and then in part 2 and part 3, we could have had more time to continue, like really understand the growth and the effect of these characters, the aftermath, and then bringing it back at the All Valley. Because, like many people said, part 3 felt way too rushed, and most people agree with this too. It's like part 3, especially episodes 13, 14, 15, well, they were considered the best of the part and probably the best some of the best in the entire show. They were just so rushed. Like, as soon as Robbie's fight with Axel, it's like he gets injured, and like right away it's like, okay, Johnny's bringing back Cobra Kai, and they're all coming back. It's like, how do you even, bro, in that whole scene when Johnny was in the locker room with Kreese, it's like, how do you even bring back Cobra Kai like so quickly? Like, Robbie just got injured like 15 minutes ago. It's like, how did they even have those uniforms there? Like, where did they get them from? It's like, how are they, like just like Sensei Wolf said, like, this is bullshit. How can they do that? Like, how did they do that? They couldn't just bring the uniforms back in like a few minutes. They brought them back. It's like, it made no sense, but like, it was nice, but it should have taken more time, you know what I mean? Like, we should have had like a couple scenes of like Johnny talking with Miguel maybe at first, like, yeah, like, I want to bring back Cobra Kai, I think you'd be great for it. Like, we didn't get those scenes at all. I thought the scene of them in the balcony would have been about that, and it was, but it was like after. It's like, that's why I really think part 1 should have been the Sekai tournament in Barcelona. They should have done all of it in part 1, so then part 2 could have been like a slow comeback together, and then it could have ended off with Robbie getting injured. And then part 3 would have fully been about Miguel accepting the responsibility of taking over, getting revenge for his brother, training, and then fighting Axel, and then Johnny fighting Wolf. They definitely should have left it off, more. And I feel like that was the problem with it. So yeah, part 1 just feeling really rushed and being like all over the place. I definitely agree why most people didn't like it. And all the small scenes we got, like, the sleepover scene, like all the stuff, like the training with Mike Barnes, like, it was, yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it was needed pretty much. But yeah, part 2, of course, was great, almost amazing. Actually, no, I wouldn't say it was amazing. Yeah, but it's mixed. But yeah, part 2, when they're in Barcelona, all that stuff is handled so well. Robbie's fight with Quan is great, and the music and everything, and the scenes with Johnny and Miguel, they're all done really amazingly. It's Silva's return. It's all just great. And then of course, part 3, we all know, came out just like a week ago now. It's amazing. It's the way they handle everything is really nice. It's just that, again, they could have fixed pacing a bit, but season 6 overall was a really good ending to the series. It could have, been handled a bit better, but it was still really nice ending. The way they handle all the characters' arcs and journeys, they finished them all. It's really done really nicely. So that's why I feel like season 6 for me, it would be in the middle. Coming in at number 3, we have season 3. The way they handle the aftermath of season 2 is just done like the perfect like blend. So we see Johnny, helping Miguel out from his injury. The entire season is, obviously Miguel being in the hospital first, he's learning how to walk again, Johnny's helping him walk. It's just so amazing seeing how that's done, and seeing Johnny just fully like helping Miguel walk again, and then seeing just how much he cares for him. It's just really nice. And then of course seeing Johnny reunite with Ali and the way it's handled is just so well, because I thought Ali was gonna come back in season 6, but she didn't. But it was really nice how they brought her back, and how Johnny managed to talk with her about everything, about again how he talked about how he wasted his life away in his 20s and 30s, and it's like, and then how she made him realize how he made mistakes, but it's okay because you can learn from them. And when she reads the letter to Daniel that Mr. Miyagi wrote to Yuki, and that whole scene it's really sad, of course. I feel like most people cried when they first saw that scene, seeing how Miyagi reads the letter that he wrote about Daniel, his life and everything. It's like the speech that he says at the very end, where he says like, in life, I always search for answers, but it's the people that guide us to places. It's like, that whole scene is just done so well, and seeing Daniel like get so emotional because of it, you could fully understand why. And it's just done like the dialogue in the show. It's like, again, a lot of it is really corny for sure, but like in the right times, like when it needs to be serious, it locks in. Coming in second place, we have season 4. I remember seeing so much promo for this season. Before season 6, when there was no promo at all, we got for some reason. Season 4 had so much promo that was going on. I remember the All Valley ads, that little TV spot, those commercials, those trailers. Especially the season 4 trailer might have actually been the best trailer we've ever gotten. Seeing Johnny and Daniel finally get along together after like 3 seasons already is just really nice seeing them working together, especially with their other styles. You know, Johnny having an unorthodox style with him training with the kids. It's just, it's seeing Johnny being Johnny is always funny. I feel like especially this season, it was like we saw him do like the most like crazy shit. It's like, it's funny because this is how Johnny is. This is how his style always will be. He's always being aggressive, doing all this like crazy stuff. And Daniel's doing the more Miyagi, calm stuff for the tournament. So it's really nice seeing how they train together. It's still, honestly, it is kind of weird though. I still don't really understand why they split up at the end of the season, like midway through, and then at the very last episode got back together again. I don't know, it feels really dumb. Like, it would have been better if they stayed together as Miyagi, but I guess also it kind of makes sense because that was for the Sekai for the season. They wanted to be separate dojos, Miyagi and Eagle Fang. Seeing the kids together is just really amazing as well, and also seeing Johnny and Miguel, of course, their dynamic is still, it is kind of like swept upon, but they had that really nice scene in the training gym scene when they're like talking about they're eating watermelon, they're talking about Johnny's dad. That scene is also really amazing too. Miguel brings back Johnny when he's drunk at night, and he calls him Robbie. He says, I love you, Robbie. That's, of course, it's really emotional. And then, of course, like seeing Miguel cry is just really sad, which is kind of why he wasn't focused during the All Valley. And as well as Hawk also, I mean, of course, his whole arc was a buzz cut, and maybe he should have kept the buzz cut, after he won, because that's the whole point of it. And of course, seeing Silver come back really was the highlight. Honestly, Thomas Ian Griffith is such an underrated actor. I mean, I know he retired acting after Karate Kid 3, like sometime in the 90s. But the fact that they brought him back to reprise his role after retiring just shows how much, this show really handled the characters well, the writers. And just seeing Silver come back, being evil, being manipulative, just having so much charisma, so much character to him. He really is just such a great villain. And also, especially during that scene, in the very end when he beat up Stingray. Dude, the All Valley in season 4 was just so amazing. Like, how come the All Valley season 4 was honestly like better than the Sekai in part 2? Honestly, I feel like most people would agree. Why was the Sekai, the World Tournament, felt so small compared to the All Valley? Like, I know the All Valley has an audience, but still, like, the Sekai, it's like the most biggest tournament in the world, and probably the most famous one. It's like, how come that whole like structure looked the exact same, if not a little bit smaller? The All Valley season 4 was just high, man. The audience, the people that were there, it was like, I've seen videos about it too. You probably know what I'm talking about. It was like the All Valley season 4. It really was just straight up heat, man. The fights, especially Robbie and Hawk's fight, one of the best in the entire series, man. The music everywhere, it's just so amazing seeing those fights handled well. And of course, seeing Sam and Tori are good too. But yeah, Hawk and Robbie, dude, their fight is fucking amazing. The sudden death. But the only thing is though, honestly, they really should have made Robbie win season 4. It would have made so much more sense for him to win because Hawk's not a main character. Robbie could have easily won the trophy, and he realized he was fighting for the wrong side, but at least he got a trophy at least, and he could have fixed his relationship with Johnny either way. So honestly, I feel like I should make a whole video on that too, honestly, why Robbie should have won season 4, because I feel like it's like he deserved it, but it is what it is, it's fine. Hawk winning was still great too. And of course, when he won, it was just amazing, that whole scene. And Tori winning too also. And yeah. But coming at number 1, I just had to put it, season 1. Now, for me, I feel like season 1 is just one of the best modern, like, sequel, reboot, continuations of an old franchise. The way they continue off a story that was left literally from more than 35 years ago, from the 80s, in the modern day. The way they continue it and continue the characters' stories and giving us new ones while still knowing about the old ones. There was another YouTuber, Ken Cole, who also made such a good video about why Cobra Kai is what the Star Wars sequel should have been, with the lessons of staying true to the original story's roots, staying faithful to the classic characters, keeping the classic characters and their relationship prominent, feature new characters but use the classic characters to introduce them, not ignoring the weaker movies, staying connected to the original creators, and having a story plan. All these things is just what made season 1 so memorable and being just such a well-crafted continuation of an old property from 30 years ago. We continue the story from the Karate Kid, from Johnny's perspective from 1984, when he was more of just like a side character in the original movie. He wasn't even that much of a villain. He's only in the original movie for like 15 minutes in total, the screen time. But the way they continue his story, where we see how Johnny's living his life. He's working as a handyman, he's depressed, he's just drinking every day, he has no purpose in his life. He has an estranged relationship with his son. We see him one day, he meets his new neighbor, Miguel, who's getting bullied. I had to move my power off yesterday for some reason. But let me just resume back to what I was saying. So season 1, I would say, also just does such a good job of having the reverse roles in a way, because Johnny obviously was like the Mr. Miyagi to Miguel. He was like the good old mentor to the bullied kid, just like how obviously Miyagi was to Daniel in the original trilogy. Johnny being a father figure to Miguel, being like the wise mentor, the relationship between them. It's like it's like what we were missing ever since season 1, like just Johnny and Miguel having a good mentor relationship. And also another side note, but the humor. I know I haven't mentioned that earlier in the season, but I feel like it's like kind of, I didn't know what else to say for it, just like I don't know, it's just great. And I feel like Cobra Kai is like one of the only like few movies or TV shows nowadays that like does dark humor and gets away with it. It's like, you know, we don't really get that anymore these days. Like, actually, I'm gonna make a whole video about that later, but like Cobra Kai, especially the season 1 humor is just so funny. How it's like we see Johnny like a guy who was, you know, who's like still living in the 80s. Like he's in the modern world today. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know what Facebook is. He doesn't know what trans people are, what gay people are. It's like making all these like funny slurs. He's like making fun of fat kids. It's just like so funny. It's like because, you know, Johnny's like still living in the past. And also season 1 just has so much simplicity to it. Like it really felt just so well grounded, and it was just the most like casual, like realistic like season also, I would say. Not realistic, but you know what I mean. It's like it just felt like so natural from where the story ended off 3 years ago, how they continue it. And just seeing Miguel, who's an average kid who goes into school, he gets bullied. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, especially me. And then he just wants to learn martial arts to defend himself. And also I dealt with that too when I was that age too, and even younger. But yeah, and I remember when the first time I even saw the show too, it's like it really was the show that made me get back into martial arts, start training in Muay Thai again, going to the gym and all that. And it really is just like really inspiring to see how far Miguel come. When you look at him, season 1, he was just a kid who wanted to, you know, learn how to defend himself from bullies and be confident himself. Now he's a world champion. So, and it really is just so nice. Also, just seeing like how well Johnny's relationship with Miguel grows, because we really just see like the first few episodes, he's kind of like, he thinks Miguel is just a loser. He doesn't care much about him. He's just training him for the money. But then once the next few episodes, when he trains him more, it's like you really see like he gets to know him more. He sees how like determined Miguel is. It's like he starts to like grow a bond with him, and that's just really like wholesome to see. Johnny actually caring for him, and they becoming like a really he literally obviously becomes like a father figure to him. But it's like the way it happens just feels so natural. Yeah, I know it's great here. He just continuing off where he was before. He's successful, but he's still struggling in life because, you know, Miyagi died, and he's trying to find balance with himself, trying to find peace, and then he meets Robbie. And so all of that's pretty much why I would put season 1 as the best season of Cobra Kai. It might change over time, but for me, for now, it's still the best. So yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments, share your ranking. It's just my list. I would love to hear yours. Another video coming up, ranking the best fights I've ever seen. Stick around for that. Thank you for your time, and remember, Cobra Kai, until then, never dies.